Hello guys, welcome back to our channel. Today we will explain a drama and thriller movie named Money of 2019, which is based on the fraud and scam of the stock market. If you are associated with the stock market or want to join it in the future, then you must watch this movie. The story begins in a city named Yedo in South Korea, which is also called the financial hub of South Korea. There, a boy named Mike works as a broker in a brokerage firm named DM Security. Mike works very hard and diligently, but despite this, he could not become a successful broker and his commission is always zero, which was a shameful thing for him. Seeing successful brokers around him, he also wanted to become like them and wanted to achieve success and earn money at any cost. Mike comes from a very poor family. His parents are raspberry farmers, and whenever he gets time, he helps them in farming. His best friend in the office is Kevin. Both of them studied together in college, and now they also work together in the same office. Kevin belongs to a rich family. He wants to open his own investment firm and is working there to gain experience. Mike was poor, but despite this, Kevin considers him his good friend. Well, brokers at DM Securities buy or sell shares and securities from their clients' accounts as per their orders and collect their commission. Meaning the bigger the order, the bigger the commission. The market starts at 9 a.m. and closes at 3 p.m., meaning 6 hours of tension, and in the meantime, someone earns a lot of money and someone loses it. Now, speculation continues in the stock market by big institutions, or in other words, big money. Speculation means buying shares at a cheaper price by lowering their price, and when their demand increases in the market, then sell them at a higher price, which is illegal because such speculation ruins small retail investors. But to stop such speculation, we have SEBI. Similarly, there is Financial Supervisory Service, in short FSS. Well, then one day Mike gets a call from a client. On the call, the client gives him 20,000 shares of an electronic company and cuts the call. Now Mike doesn't know whether to buy or sell the stock. After thinking for a while, he buys the stock from the client's account. But after some time, Mike gets a call from that client again. He angrily tells him that I'd asked you to sell the shares and not buy them. So now that client asked for his money back. Due to Mike's mistake, he had to return the money to the client from the company's funds. That's why the manager tells everyone that because the money had to be paid to the client from the company's funds. No one will get commission this month, so everybody gets angry at Mike. Now Leon was watching all this. Leon is the biggest broker here, and his name always remains at the top of the commission list. He tells Mike that once upon a time my condition was also like yours. But since I started working with a secret investment company, my condition started improving and I became the top broker of this company. Liam tells Mike that there is a broker named Jack. He has all the inside information of the market. Everybody wants to work with him, and I also work with him, because those who have worked with him have become top brokers today. Now seeing Lon's wealth and success, Mike also wants to work for Jack. Now Mike meets Jack. He is surprised to see Jack's personality. Jack gives him a phone and says you have to handle an account named Samuel Asset and you will get a call on this phone tomorrow. Do exactly as you are told on the phone. If you handle this transaction successfully, you will get a good commission and a chance to work with us in the future. Jack also tells him not to mention all this to anyone. The next day, Mike opens a DMAT account for Samuel Asset with $50 million deposited. He keeps the account ready for dealing. Then he gets a call on that phone and is told that $5 lock shares of Spread Company will be available in the market as soon as the market opens. Out of that, you have to buy 9 lock shares. Spread is a large cap company. No one ever sells more than 500 shares in his market. So why would anyone sell shares in such a large quantity? Then we come to know that a broker who works for Jack in a brokerage company had put 15 lock shares of Spread Company for sale on Jack's request. Now as soon as the market opens at 9 o'clock, Mike starts buying 9 lock shares. It creates an uproar after seeing the shares of such a big company available in such large quantity in the market here. You see, Mike buys only 9 lock shares out of it as per Jack's instructions. Well, now when the vice president of DM Securities gets the news of this transaction, he does not believe that Mike has made such a big deal. So he calls back that client and confirms it. Then he gives information to the client that he had asked to buy the shares. But that client is fake. Now after this big transaction, there is turmoil in the stock market. In fact, a bank in Hong Kong has sold some securities at a price much lower than the market price. And due to so many shares suddenly becoming available in the market, their market value falls. So because of this, the whole market also falls down. Taking advantage of the falling market, Jack buys shares of many companies at cheap prices. Buying 9 lock shares out of 15 lock was just a sham, but the real motive was to bring down the entire billion-dollar market. Now this dealing comes to the notice of the Financial Supervisory Service, FSS in short, which controls stock market fraud in Korea. The case is given to an investigator named Roy for investigation, and Roy starts investigating the scam of Spread. But the broker who sold the Spread shares has fled the country. So now he reaches the office of Samuel Asset, who buys the shares. But that office is empty. There was just one man who was following Jack's instructions and had disappeared long ago after taking his commission. So now there remains Mike, who was the broker in this transaction. So Roy goes after him. On the other hand, Roy tells Mike that he has deposited his commission amount of more than 1 lakh by opening an overseas account in Bahamas, and to avoid any suspicion, the account was opened in the name of Mark Cho, that is a fake name. Mike now buys a luxurious flat with that money and tries to give a better life to his parents with that money, and both of them are very happy to see this. He takes his girlfriend to an expensive restaurant for dinner. Then Mike meets Roy for the first time in the washroom of the same restaurant. Roy gives his visiting card to Mike, and on seeing the card, Mike suspects that the FSS might be keeping an eye on him. Well, now Jack calls Mike to meet him for the next deal. He tells Mike that the next time he'll have to do program trading. Program trading means executing orders for many different shares at once. So a basket of different shares is created and they are put together for sale at one time, which is done through a program. Now the market starts falling and Mike gets orders for shares in bulk. Mike receives orders to buy shares worth around 139 million, which he fulfills in a few minutes through program trading. Total transactions amount to Rs 700 million, in which Mike gets a cut of Rs 1 crore 75 lakh. Seeing this, everyone in the office starts praising him. Now at night, Roy meets Mike downstairs at his apartment and tells him that he now has his eyes on him. He gets tensed after hearing this. The next day, Mike calls Jack to meet him and tells him everything. Jack then consoles him that Roy has no proof, but if you get scared, things can get worse, and advises him to go to Bahamas on vacation for a few days. Mike leaves for vacation to the Bahamas. There he goes to the bank where Jack deposited his commission and sees $1.41 million deposited in his account. And Mike can't believe it. He is shocked and jumps with joy. Now he takes some money from there and goes out to enjoy, where he meets David, who has an investment firm in New York. Both exchange each other's visiting cards. When Mike returned, he saw that his office had been raided by the FSS people, and the reason behind this was Mike himself, whose dealings in the last few days had come to the notice of the FSS, regarding which the DM's inquiry committee inquires about him. Because of this, the president fires Liam from the job and hands over all his work to Mike, due to which Liam gets very angry at Mike, and after abusing him, he leaves from there. I don't care about all these things anymore. He is busy enjoying his money, and because of the big orders, Mike's reputation in the office increases and his name always remains at the top in the commission. In fact, he was unknowingly speculating in the shares about which he himself was not aware. Then one night, Mike gets a call from an unknown number. Then the next day, he learns from the news that a broker named Beck has committed suicide. And then Mike finds out that the broker also used to work with Jack because Mike saw him once when he went to meet Jack. Now the police interrogate Mike because Beck made the last call to Mike before committing suicide. Now in the office, when Mike looks at the past transaction history, he finds out that Beck's name was also included in the list of 2 brokers who had done program trading with Mike. Well, Roy goes to Mike's colleague, Kim, who also does a bit of market speculation. So Roy inquires about that too. Roy tells him that if he wants to avoid going to jail, he will have to do one thing for him. He asks Kim to steal Mike's transaction data from his computer. Roy then goes to a broker named Hang, who works for Jack. Roy starts investigating him as well, since he too had come under his suspicion. Now meets Hang Lian. The two already know each other, as it was Hang who asked Lian to work with Jack. Both of them now realize that Jack was playing the real game by using them as pawns, and if an investigation took place, both of them would get trapped. So the two decide that they will both accompany Roy and help him catch Jack. On the other hand, Mike goes to Hang's office to meet him. Then he sees there that Hang has committed suicide by jumping from the building. But that is not suicide, but murder, because Jack had him killed by a contract killer. Seeing all this, Mike now gets tensed. Kevin explains to Mike that what he is doing could get him into big trouble, and that he is just being used, and Roy begins investigating him as well. But Mike ignores him. Anyway, Jack calls Mike to meet him. When he meets Jack, Jack tells him that he will now have to do naked shorting, which is illegal in stock market. The work is worth Rs 35 million, in which Mike's cut would be Rs 5 million. Naked short selling is a term used to sell shares without borrowing them. This is different from normal short selling, where shares are first borrowed and then sold. But in naked short selling, it is not even seen whether the shares are actually available or not, and still they are sold. This could put unfair pressure on the stock price, leading to market volatility and hair fall, especially when that share is in large quantity. Now, the next day, Mike gets a call from the client and he asks him to buy 70,000 shares of Signal Tech Company. Just as Mike is about to buy it, he receives a call from another client asking him to buy another 80,000 shares. Actually, Jack was buying shares through another client, and by doing so, he buys the entire 20 million shares of that company at a low price through Mike. Mike sees in the news that there was a fire at Signal Tech Company 2 days ago. Taking advantage of which, Jack did naked short selling and made many shares of Signal Tech available for sale in the market. Due to this fear, the investor starts selling his shares in the market, due to which the price of shares of that company starts falling rapidly. Taking advantage of this, Jack buys them for a pittance. Mike now understands the whole game and is convinced that Jack was the one who set the fire. In fact, Jack takes the share prices of bankrupt companies like Signal Tech to the bottom and buys them for a pittance. After taking over the company, he sells the assets of the company and earns a profit of millions of dollars. On the other hand, Kim takes advantage of the opportunity and steals Mike's transaction data from his computer onto a pen drive. Jack causes Liam to have an accident, due to which he goes into coma, and Jack calls Mike to the hospital and shows him Liam's condition and threatens him that if he betrays him, then his condition will also be like theirs. Now Mike was completely trapped. Here Roy, along with the security unit, puts a bid on DM Security and seizes all their account files. Roy takes Mike with him. Roy shows him how many brokers and companies have been ruined because of Jack. Roy shows him as proof that he also has Mike's entire transaction history, which Kim gave them. Then Mike gets a message that Kevin's father's company using has gone bankrupt and is on the verge of bankruptcy. Then he sees on the board that now Jack's next target is Kevin's father's company. Then he understands that Jack wants to buy Kevin's father's company for a pittance by doing naked short selling. Now Roy offers him that he will release him if he helps him catch Jack. Well, now Mike goes and meets Kevin and promises him that tomorrow, when the market opens, then the share price of your company, that is Vasang, which is now at the bottom, will increase. I will buy all the shares of your father's company. Kevin then says that his uncle wants to sell the company to another company at a cheap price. Mike then tells them not to sell the company cheaply in a hurry. I will lift him up. Trust me. The next morning, as soon as the market opens, Mike tells his colleague to buy all the shares of Vasang from the global investment account, which increases the market value of the company. On the other hand, Kevin stops his uncle from selling his share of the shares and asks him to wait a bit. Meanwhile, Jack calls Mike, but Mike does not receive his call. Roy comes to know about this deal and leaves for the Office of Global Investment. Now Mike makes 9 million shares of Vasang available for sale in the market, which Mike himself had bought a few hours ago from Global's account. Now here we get to know Mike's real plan. Mike, you'll remember, met David at Bama's, and he has an investment company in New York. So Mike himself buys Vasang's shares through David. Now the question arises, where did Mike get so much money from? So, in the Bahamas bank where Mike had deposited his earnings of around $1 million till date, he buys shares of Vasang with that money through David's company. Now, as the share price of Vasang increases in the market, most of the investors and Kevin's uncle do not sell their shares. Due to this, Jack's plan to buy that company fails, due to which he gets very angry. Jack sends his killer to kill Mike. But because the security personnel are with Mike, the killer is unable to do anything. Now Roy raids Jack's global investment company, but Jack had left. When Roy wanted to catch hold of Jack at any cost, Mike tells him that Jack will definitely call him to meet him, as Mike had thought. Jack asks her to meet him at the metro station. Mike arrives there to meet him, but while Jack is chatting with Mike, he discovers that Mike has hidden a microphone in his court, through which Roy is listening to their conversation. Then Jack's killer stabs Mike in the stomach, but Roy arrives and catches the killer and also catches Jack. Jack thinks they have no evidence against him, but Mike gives them the recorder he used to record their conversations from his first meeting with Jack. Now when Roy is arresting Jack and taking him away, Mike takes advantage of the opportunity and escapes from the train and calls Roy and tells him all the locations where he had hidden the phone, etc., given by Jack. Then, while sitting in the train, Mike's eyes fall on a man traveling in the train, and this is where the movie ends.